Hello everyone, we are back with another lesson that is going to be about the second section of the third year book that is about listening. That is going to be on page 189, the second section. So before we listen, we're going to go through an activity. The first activity is going to be about putting the following words or expressions under the appropriate headings. The headings are the sea, travel, marriage, natural disasters, and death. Starting with the first word, which is a partner. That is a noun. A partner, as you can see, is a person with whom you're having a relationship. That is your husband or your wife, or if not married, someone with whom you're living, with whom you share your flat or room or house or whatever you're living in. We're moving on to the second, which is a wedding. A wedding is a ceremony of the marriage itself, not the institution of marriage, but the ceremony or the celebration. A hotel, a tsunami, are words you are supposed to know. A wedding ring is what you put in your hand so that people know that you are married or engaged. Waves, which we have in the sea. Flight is a noun from the word fly, which is used to talk about what planes do. Maybe a certain flight from, for example, Tunis to Paris. Orphaned is used to talk about people who lost one or both of their parents. Loss of life when someone dies, or many. A mourner is a person who is grieving or very sad because he or she has lost someone, a relative, or a friend. Devastation is what happens when you have a disaster. Maybe houses are destroyed, roads are no longer in use. Then damage, which is related to devastation, also a negative word. Fisherman, as you can see, is in plural. We're talking about men whose job is related to fishing fish from the sea. Corpses, when somebody dies, the body is referred to as a corpse. Wedding pictures, funeral is taking someone, the thing that people do when they take someone to during a funeral to the cemetery to bury them because they are dead and we have to bury the dead. Beachside is the side of the beach, as you see. A boat trip is a trip on boat. And then boats. Smashed is related to devastation and damage. And last is a honeymoon. A honeymoon is the period when two partners, two newly married husband and wife go usually away from the place where they live in to spend some time together, usually abroad. So the headings, we're supposed to put these words under the right headings. You can find the document that is in which you find all the answers down below in the description section of this video. So we're going to move to the next section, next activity, and that is, sorry for that, the second activity. Read the introduction below and guess what the listening passage is about. The pictures and words in activity 1 may help you. So in the space of 16 months, Sandra Bell went from attending her daughter's wedding. So she was attending her daughter's wedding. Her daughter is going to be married apparently, to being chief. Chief, we mean the biggest mourner. As we explained earlier, a mourner is a person who mourns, the verb, who mourns the death of a relative or a friend at her funeral. Her refers to her daughter. who apparently died, because we're talking about a funeral here. Sandra, who is 63, Legbourne, Lincolnshire, which is in Britain, tells her heartbreaking story. By heartbreaking, we're talking about a story that is so sad that it breaks your heart, which is a metaphor for making someone very sad and sorrowful. Sorry for that. Moving on to as you listen, you will find also the listening passage and the script uploaded to the description of this video, so you can find them, download them, and listen to them as you're doing these activities on your book. So listen to the whole passage and check your predictions. So we're going to listen, so please download and listen to the passage that you're going to find attached to the video. So we're supposed to fill in with the names of the couple. So we got here Natalie and Andy. The date of the wedding is the 22nd of May, 10 years ago. That is 2010, apparently. Time of the honeymoon is Christmas. And the honeymoon destination is Phi Phi Touristic Resort in Thailand. What happened is that a tsunami took place in that area. A tsunami, but it happened in the sea. As an earthquake, when it happens in the sea, we call it a seaquake, caused a tsunami. That is the Japanese word for big wave. Back to the book. You can find, as I said, the listening passage, and then download it and listen to that whenever you like. And then circle the correct alternative. They postponed their honeymoon means they were going to marry at a certain time, but they postponed it. So, and that means to put it off until later. By putting it off, we mean that they delayed it to another different time that is supposed to come later. The couple they changed their minds about something, which is the place, time, or the time of the honeymoon or time of the wedding, and that is that they decided to do something different. That is the meaning of change their minds about the place, their honeymoon destination. They're going to go to a certain place, and then they changed their minds and went to the Phi Phi Touristic Resort in Thailand. Back to the book. So we're supposed to move on to the second and third section of the listening passage. Complete the sentence with the appropriate information. When Nat phoned her mother, she and time. So when Natalie phoned her mother, she sounded, we're using the verb sound because she didn't see her, but that's what she could tell from her voice. She sounded relaxed and having a great time. So that is how you're supposed to complete that section of the sentence. So in what order did the following events occur according to the passage? So first, as you can see, is A. Nat phoned her mother on Christmas Day. You can find the rest in here in the description, as you can see. Then 2D, 3A, 4B, 5F, and 6C. Moving on to the third question. Listen again and check your answers. So that is what you're supposed to do on your own. 3. What is meant by the following sentence? I refuse to think the worst. What is the worst? When she was watching the news on TV, she heard about something that was going on in the place where her daughter and her husband were spending their honeymoon. So there was a tsunami taking place in that area. So she said, I refused to think the worst when she phoned her daughter, but she didn't pick up the phone. By the worst, we mean, which is the superlative from the adjective bad, we mean that she didn't want to think about the worst thing that might happen to them, which is their death, of course. When she said, I refuse to think the worst, Nat's mother meant that she didn't want to believe that the worst thing, which is death, happened to her daughter like many others, as she saw that on TV. She didn't want to think about her daughter's death. Maybe she believed that this is not going to happen to her, but it did. Express the following sentence differently. I couldn't stop searching the screen of the TV in case I glimpsed her Nat and her husband. As you know, when watching TV, certain scenes, are taking place, and they do not take a long time on the screen. So the screen shows different images and scenes very quickly. So that's why she used the verb glimpse, which means to have a very quick look at something. Maybe a car that is passing by, a person who is running, maybe so something that is taking place quickly. Moving on to the third, as you can see, this is a picture of the wreck, things that are destroyed by sea waves. The bungalow where they were spending the honeymoon. Moving on to the third part of the listening passage. Complete the table with the words describing the island and Nat's flat, the room where they were staying. You can find these words in the document I'm going to upload with the video, and in the listening passage. She was talking about devastation, boats smashed, rotting corpses, people who are dead, total devastation, smashed strip of land. In the description of Nat's phone, she said that the Christmas tree was still up. It was Christmas time, and they were celebrating Christmas with a Christmas tree. Wedding pictures were everywhere. And although it was a disaster, everything was tidy in the room. Back to the book. Sandra said, we want to do something good for them. Them, he refers to Nat and Andy and all people who suffered from that disaster in Thailand. What did they decide to do for orphan children? They decided to decided to set up a fund to raise money for them, collecting money for them and their schools, so that they can go back to schools. As regards the fishermen, they tried to raise money to buy several boats for them, because their boats were destroyed in the incident, to help them get back on their feet again, to go back to work and to find enough money to raise their children, the children they have and their families. Moving on to question E, listen to the whole passage again and take the appropriate title. What is, according to you, is the best and most suitable title for the text? A Woman's Diary, that of the mother, The Tragic Honeymoon, or The Orphaned Children? Well, there is a mentioning of a woman's not diary, but she is the one who is talking in the listening passage about what happened to her daughter. So it might be, but we also have orphan children being talked about in the listening passage, but most of it in general was a tragic honeymoon, which is more general and more suitable title for the passage. I think that is going to be the most suitable one. How could you describe the woman's mood during in the passage? I think she was not indifferent. She was rather sorrowful, sad, not sarcastic, but grieved and mournful. Grief is deep sadness. Mournful, as we said, we added here FUL to get the adjective. A mourner, we've seen the word. is the person who is deeply sad for someone's death. In 3, is the story real or imaginary? As you can tell, it is rather real, because we've seen names of places, names of people that do really exist. We also have events that are probably happened. They did happen. We know that. It was in the news. Besides, they are not events that might not happen. It is possible for these events, even if you don't know that they happened, to believe that they did happen. So the story is rather real. In 4, read silently as you listen to the following part of the text. Try to imitate the tone of the voice. That's what you can do as you listen to the passage and reach this part. In grammar, we're focusing on the following. If Andy was dead, Nat must have been too. In the following sentence, Nat's mother doesn't know for sure that her daughter is dead, but because Andy and Nat were together, she was able to deduce, the verb from deduction, to deduce, to know that Nat is dead too, because they were together. So if Andy was dead, Nat must have been too. Is the sentence in the present or the past? Well, if Andy was dead, so that is the past, we're going to complete the rule. Must plus past participle, must have plus the past participle of the verb is used to express deduction in the past. As you can see in the document I uploaded, if Andy was dead, Nat must have been too, so it expresses deduction in the past. Must plus have plus past participle of any verb, here we got been, expresses habit in the past. Example, as the following: the lights in his room are off. He must have left the house. I am sure, because the lights are off, that he must have left the house. Here we use the past participle of the verb leave. As we move on to the homework, writing or speaking, use the answers to the question to summarize the story, the people, the incident, the dramatic part of the story, and the events leading up to it. Retell the story to your classmates. So you're supposed to summarize the text. When summarizing a story like that, try to be concise, short, to mention the most important events, and focus on the main characters. Try to be short, don't make it long. Let's say 4 lines, something like that. The story did take place in the past, so we're going to use the past simple mostly, and that is all. So we're going to see the next section next time. So try to download the audio and the script of it, open your books and see the following section too. See you.